Hello, Internet. The dark days of the fourth quarter have finally passed us, and it's been a pretty interesting week in the auto industry. As I've got news for you guys on BMW's potential replacement for the i8, we'll talk about Nissan's weird phase of light up badges and tank treads. Volvo's very concerned for your well being, and I've got news on the upcoming Polestar 2 and more. But before we really get going, I just wanted to let you guys know that there are some pretty long shot rumors going around out there that there may be some sort of surprise announcement coming up on the opening day of the Detroit Auto Show pertaining to the new Corvette C8. As you probably know, it came to light recently that the new Corvette would be hit by a minimum 6-month delay due to apparently some pretty serious issues around the new wiring harness. Anyway, I won't hold my breath, but if anything real does come out of this, I'll be sure to let you know. And some of you may remember a few months back when I brought you guys up to speed on the upcoming Polestar 1. Not being content with only having one car in the works, Volvo's new high-end EV performance brand has recently dropped this teaser for its second vehicle, and that is the cleverly named Polestar 2. However, aside from the name, the new vehicle will be fairly different from the Polestar 1. One of the main differences being is that the Polestar 2 will feature 2 extra doors. Also, as far as styling, that trunk lid looks fairly narrow, so I'd say we may be looking at getting one of those semi-hatchback sedans similar to the Kia Stinger, or, if you prefer, the Chevrolet Corsica hatchback. I know, what the hell is wrong with me? Anyway, also unlike the Polestar 1, which is a plug-in hybrid, the new car will be entirely electric. And more specifically, it'll use an electrified version of Volvo's CMA platform that's used on the XC40 crossover. And we also know from a 2018 interview with Polestar's CEO that he said that the vehicle will have about 405 horsepower and will have up to a 350-mile range and will start at around $40,000. So, if all goes according to plan, the car is supposed to make it to market as a 2019 model, and like many other upcoming vehicles, the Polestar 2 is aimed squarely at getting themselves some of that Model 3 money. Also, as part of the teaser, Polestar said to look out for an announcement from them in the coming weeks, and conveniently, the Detroit Auto Show kicks off in about a week and a half, so my money is on them showing it there, most likely on the first day of the show. And in a little bit more Volvo news this week, the brand will soon begin offering driver monitoring cameras as an available option beginning next year. And in an interview this week, Volvo chief Atif Rafiq stated that the new cameras will do innocent things like monitor the driver's glucose levels by looking at their pupils to detect health problems, or could be used for video conferencing or ID purposes. And Rafiq also stated that, much like other upstanding companies out there, Volvo would never consider using this technology to spy on you. Now let's talk about Nissan's luxury brand Infiniti, as it's been dropping teasers for a new EV crossover for a few months now, and this week we got a new one, along with a name to go with it, and that is the QX Inspiration Concept. The picture shows off the front end of the new concept, but also is probably a good thing to look at in terms of upcoming Infiniti styling. Also, from the looks of this picture, the vehicle appears to be a coupe, which in and of itself is a pretty rare thing nowadays. Of course, nothing's yet known about the performance or the price or whether or not the vehicle will actually make it to market, but you won't have to wait long because, like the Polestar 2 I just mentioned, it'll be making its first appearance at the Detroit Auto Show starting on January 14th. Alright, so speaking of Nissan, for those of you who don't know, in addition to being the latest victim of the light-up badge craze, Nissan apparently has this weird thing for putting tracks on its vehicles. But hey, as a guy who's always had a weird thing for apocalypse cars, I'm kind of into it. Anyway, the 2019 Tokyo Auto Salon kicks off this month in Japan, and Nissan's bringing a few concept cars to the party. The most interesting of which, oddly enough, is a Nissan Juke. Well, this Nissan Juke. Dubbed the Juke Adventure Concept, the new vehicle will sport a 3-tone paint job, a host of outdoorsy add-ons, and most obviously some giant snow treads and even more gigantic fender flares. And you can expect to see this vehicle show up sometime around 2034, just after the Great Comet disrupts the Earth's rain cycle and mass desertification begins taking place, water becomes scarce, and everyone you know gets eaten by kangaroo monsters. So, if you're still here after all that, let's talk about one of my all-time favorite BMWs, and that is the i8. And like many other things I like, it'll soon be taken away from me. As I reported to you guys some months back that BMW is looking to move away from their i vehicles, and styling for that matter, as more and more of their cars are moving towards electrification, and that's basically the theme of the i series. However, it does appear that the i8 may actually get something of a reprieve, but the catch is they don't plan to simply make a replacement to fill in the $150,000 gap in the lineup, but instead may bring the i8 back as a more serious and more expensive hybrid sports car. As in a recent Autocar interview with Mr. Klaus I Don't Want to Hear This Shit Anymore Froelich, when speaking about the i8, he stated that brands like Ferrari and McLaren are switching to hybrid platforms and still pushing out some considerable power. And that's something like what he's looking for in the future of the M brand. So, it sounds like the Germans may soon announce a new BMW i9, or would it be i8M, or maybe even M1, which, by the way, the i8 styling has always kind of reminded me of. Either way, you can expect an i8-inspired, carbon fiber-bodied performance hybrid sporting a larger gasoline engine sometime in the next couple of years. And as I've been reading over this, it's brought something to my mind which I will now share with you. And that is, if BMW wants to bump up the price and performance of the i8 to a $200,000 plus car, I say go for it, as BMW seems to be in a similar state to what it was in the late 80s, where it's convinced that people out there are willing to pay more for higher-end BMWs, and you know what, they may be right. But if they want to go that route, I also think they could make some money if they went with a sort of Supra 86 or Corvette Camaro kind of philosophy, and offered a similar baby i8 starting at around a more reasonable $80K or so. But what are the odds of that happening? Also, in addition to the i8, I also get to cover another favorite Doom sports car of mine this week, and that is the Lexus LFA. And since it may have been a few years, the Lexus LFA was made from 2010 to 2012, was the Lexus brand's most expensive car it ever produced, with a starting price of some $375,000 in 2012. The body was made of aluminum and carbon fiber and was driven by a 552 horsepower V10. Also, the car had a near perfect weight distribution and sounded amazing. But why am I talking about this? Well, that's because this week Toyota released its year-end sales chart, and one of the interesting things we learned was that in 2018, Lexus actually sold two brand new 2012 LFAs through its dealerships, one in Massachusetts and the other in Georgia. And interestingly enough, according to the DuPont registry, there are actually 8 remaining new LFAs on sale in North America. As you might imagine, though, they have all appreciated in value, and the most expensive one is now listed at a cool $449K. So, if you're a Toyota fan and thinking about spending $100K for a new Lexus LCF, and that may just not seem like enough performance for you, well, you've got some options. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode, but once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.